everybody, it's Dawna Avery with Visual Testaments, wanting to check in with you guys and give you some helpful tips. I know you've been loving what my husband has been doing with our nutrition tips, and I've got one for you, and it's water. It's H2O. One of the things that we love to talk about with people when they come to us for nutrition is water, because that's the first place to start. If you've got that and you cannot stand water, you've got that problem with chugging, drinking water, getting it in you, you like to sip it throughout the day, then we try and fix that right off the bat. That's one of the big no-nos for us, because if you're eating food and you're drinking very little water, mostly sodas, teas, and coffees, then guess what? You're probably really dehydrated, and it's probably showing in your bowel movements, but that's a whole nother episode that we're gonna shoot. But it also shows up in your gut, because let's think about muscle. Muscle is, think of it as a dehydrator. When you're dehydrating beef, then you're making beef jerky. Well, when you're dehydrating your muscle, guess what you're making? Beef jerky. So we don't want that, because we want our blood to be able to flow, our vitamins and nutrients to be able to go through the muscle and it not be dried out and hard and stubborn for those nutrients to get through. So water is really key, and a lot of times people will just drink a coffee in the morning or throughout the day. They're drinking their sodas and teas, and they don't understand why they're so dehydrated. They a lot of times don't even realize they're dehydrated, which is even more dangerous, and that'll show up in different medical issues. So we always try and make sure that we get this squared away first, because in order to get your food squared away, a lot of false hunger starts here. And so I always like to point out that if your body weight is, let's say, 100 pounds, then you're going to divide that by 2, and that's how many ounces throughout the day that you need to drink. So let's say, for easy math, you're 200 pounds. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you're 200 pounds, then you need to drink 100 ounces of water per day. Now, what I try and do with that is make sure that I'm chugging. This is a normal bottled water, 16.9 ounce. I'm chugging one of these the minute my body hits the floor. So I've got one beside the bed. A lot of times I'll set one beside the bed at night before I go to bed, so it's already there waiting for me. And so start right off the bat with drinking water. A lot of times we notice our friends may want to drink water with tons of ice. Again, your body's trying to make sure that it stays hydrated, and a lot of times if you're doing tons of ice, that's really kind of counterintuitive. You want body temperature so that you can get that muscle saturation going. So bottled water, making sure that you get, even if it's a shaker, like we use shaker bottles for our shakes. If you want to know what shakes and what kind of proteins we use, make sure you comment below, because my husband can definitely help you with that. But we use a lot of shakes. We do a lot of juicing. And so a lot of the reason we enjoy shakers is because we can fill them up. And so what I found is that our friends will fill them up with water, and then they'll get maybe halfway through and they'll go, oh, I don't really know how much I wasn't paying attention. So make sure that you're paying attention. We even recommend putting rubber bands to kind of remind you all the way up the shaker or all the way up the bottle. If you're just starting out and you're having a really tough time getting through a big 20-ounce glass, put rubber bands all the way through, so you'll go, okay, by 10 a.m. I have to have this much down, by noon, and so if you're doing that, make sure that you also are keeping intentional purpose on what you're drinking and how much you're drinking. If you're having a coffee, let's say you're having an 8-ounce cup of coffee, you're now 2 times behind. We have to, for every cup of coffee you have to have another cup of water. So instead of, if 1 cup of coffee, 2 cups of water. Think of it that way, because it dehydrates you that much. Same thing with teas. And so we like to make sure that that's first aware, because a lot of people don't even realize it. So one of the things that I love doing with my friends is chugging contest. Okay? So I'm going to start this one for you. Don't laugh. This one was a little cold, bit of a brain freeze, so I'm telling you, I usually do normal room temperature water. There you go. So, that one's gone. That's not my first one for today. I make sure that I get the bottles in or the shaker and keep filling it up intentionally. And the reason why I do that again is because I want to make sure I'm not having false hunger. I want to make sure that my muscle isn't all dried out. And I want to make sure my organs are saturated. One of the key things with your brain even is that it sits in 70 to 80% of water. That's your body makeup too. There's so much water that makes your organs work. And so it's really super dangerous to realize that I'm not getting enough water in. I need to change that. So make sure you get healthy and do that. One of the reasons why I like pointing out too in foods is that there's a lot of foods that you can use to help you with also making sure you get really more of a diet that's not so impacted. I noticed a lot of times when I've talked to friends who they're already kind of struggling with getting used to chugging some water, getting water in them, and I find that what they're eating is really either canned foods or chicken that has been super processed or sat in like 15 to 20% of the sodium to preserve it instead of fresh chicken. And so one of the things that I like to point out is obviously like watermelon, has tons of water in it. You want to have food choices that are going to help you with that absorbency. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to be so impacted. And beef jerky. We don't even want to start there. So we want to make sure that we have things that are helping your muscle be that subtleness that we're looking for. And so making sure that what you choose as far as food to not impact you, meaning your gut be impacted and you're starting to show signs of a gut and a belly and fewer signs of going to the toilet, if you know what I mean. So we want to make sure that we're having those movements, because if it's not coming out, it's not coming off. And that is so key with how hydrated you are. So comment below if you have any questions. If you have any questions about water, or if you have any other ideas of videos that you'd like us to create for you in nutrition, make sure you let us know. We're definitely going to be doing some recipes where I cook for you coming up. One of them is going to be how to nutrition our pets. This is my dog's food that I make for him, and I'll share that recipe with those that comment below.